Welcome, Aries souls, whether you're a long-time seeker or a brand new wanderer under this fiery sign. You've found your way to Zodiac Talks Tarot, and let me tell you, you didn't land here by accident. I say that with the conviction of someone who has spent decades mapping the emotional topography of the zodiac wheel and sitting in contemplative silence with both Carl Jung's theories and the teachings of the Buddha. When I look at you, Aries, I don't just see a cardinal fire sign. I see a soul in metamorphosis. I see someone standing at the brink of a personal revolution, not just for this month, but for this entire chapter of your life. Right now, you're shedding uncertainty the way a snake sheds its skin, not with drama, but with quiet determination. That hazy confusion you've been navigating, it's finally lifting. And no, choosing peace and stillness doesn't mean you're losing your edge. It means you're learning to direct your fire instead of letting it consume you. That's not laziness, it's spiritual mastery in motion. In fact, what you may have mistaken for a rut or a fog was actually sacred composting. Your subconscious has been stirring the soil of your soul, breaking down everything that no longer serves you: old identities, outdated beliefs, defense mechanisms dressed up as confidence. You weren't stuck, you were rooting. What's sprouting now is clarity. And with clarity comes power. Your moon placement, in particular, may have been quietly running the show lately, pulling you inward, drawing you into shadow work, forcing you to sit with the parts of yourself you've avoided. And yet, look at you. You emerged with new emotional intelligence, deeper intuition, and a surprising softness you didn't know you were allowed to show. That's the kind of growth they don't teach in textbooks. Now you're stepping into your emperor energy, not with brute force, but with elegant deliberation. This is your year of triumph 2025, and you're no longer flailing. You're planning. You're no longer burning bridges impulsively, you're rebuilding foundations with strategy and intent. Whether it's in your relationships, your career, or your personal evolution, you're no longer reacting to life. You're responding with grounded awareness. And maybe, just maybe, you've realized that being in control doesn't always mean being in charge. Sometimes, it means letting go of the chase and allowing what's meant for you to arrive on its own terms, in its own divine timing. So whether you're here for clarity, for comfort, or for confirmation that you're not crazy for feeling so much so deeply, you're in the right place. Here on Zodiac Talks Tarot, we don't just read cards. We listen to what your soul has been whispering all along. And Aries, this time, you're ready to hear it. Let's talk about that moment when the Knight of Cups strolls into your life like a romantic UPS delivery, unannounced, suspiciously charming, and carrying a box labeled fragile emotions. Aries, I see you. You were doing the work. You'd politely RSVP'd no thanks to the Love Olympics this season, choosing to invest in inner healing, quiet mornings, and maybe a little too much astrology content at 2 a.m. And just when you started to feel grounded, boom, romantic energy crash lands into your emotional landscape like a glitter bomb. But here's the twist: you didn't lunge for it this time. You didn't bolt either. You assessed. That's wisdom. That's growth. And if I may be blunt, that's hot. The chosen ones, the ones who've done the shadow work, don't chase, they align. Your nervous system remembers the days you mistook butterflies for red flags. This time, you're breathing through the excitement, not letting it run the show. Now let's not pretend heartbreak didn't leave its mark. Of course it did. You've stood at the edge of emotional devastation before and stared straight into the abyss. And the abyss, being its usual dramatic self, probably blinked first. But now the Nine of Cups shows up like an old friend, nudging you gently. What if you tried again, this time without the blindfold? That's not naivete, Aries, that's informed courage. Your scars aren't weaknesses. They're emotional street smarts. They whisper, "We've seen worse. We can handle this." So what do you do when emotional magnetism enters the chat again, this time wearing the cloak of a King of Wands? You feel it, of course. That spark, that gravitational pull. But instead of combusting like a firecracker, you choose containment. You've learned that true passion doesn't require pyrotechnics. Real connection brews in a slow simmer. You're not rushing to slap a label on this energy. You're watching. You're listening. You're letting it speak before you interrupt. And maybe, just maybe, you've come to understand that burning down relationships isn't the only way to feel warm. Intimacy doesn't have to come in like a wildfire to be real. Sometimes, it arrives like a steady flame, quiet, intentional, and capable of lasting longer than your last situationship. You know the one. This shift in you, Aries, is monumental. It's not that love isn't stirring, it's that you've changed how you respond to the stirring. That's a different kind of fire. One that doesn't consume but rather illuminates. You're no longer driven by impulse, but by insight. You're not looking to be rescued, you're curious to explore. And in this year of triumph 2025, that makes all the difference. Because while your heart may still carry the blueprint of past breakups and cosmic misalignments, it's also learned to build smarter, slower, stronger. You, Aries, are learning that magnetism without maturity is chaos. But magnetism with maturity? That's alchemy. That's the love story worth waiting for, even if it starts with just seeing where this goes and a side of healthy boundaries. Shall we see what's next? Let's be honest, Aries. Right now, you're doing something most fire signs consider a fate worse than boredom, thinking. Not just light should I text them back, thinking. No weary talking, full-blown analytical gridlock. Flow charts. Mental spreadsheets. You're out here dating like you're preparing for a corporate merger. And while your frontal cortex deserves credit for trying to protect your heart, let me remind you, love isn't a PowerPoint presentation. It's an energy exchange. Yes, discernment is sexy. Yes, intuition without strategy is chaos. But when you start running compatibility checks instead of letting connection unfold, you're not protecting your heart, you're putting it in solitary confinement. Breathe, Aries. Not every emotional encounter needs to be branded, budgeted, or benchmarked. Sometimes, the only ROI worth chasing is joy. And I know that's hard to hear when your past taught you to keep receipts. Because let's face it, your inner child is still clutching that memory where trust got you burned. You learned, somewhere along the line, to guard your heart like it's the last cookie at the party. You can look, but don't touch. That old wiring convinced you that vulnerability equals weakness, and commitment equals captivity. But lately, there's been a shift. A deeper voice rising up, your soul's voice asking for something different. Something more aligned. You're no longer craving the high of connection, you're craving the peace of connection. You're rewriting the entire rulebook, drafting a new model of love that feels safe, spacious, and rooted in mutual trust. Not adrenaline. Not intensity masquerading as intimacy. And let me tell you, Aries, that shift is nothing short of revolutionary. Now, let's get into the sacred stuff. You're not just changing how you date, you're healing your inner masculine. That voice in your head, the one that says, if I don't control it, I'll get hurt. You're finally challenging it. And that, my friend, is what real strength looks like. Not the strength to dominate, but the strength to surrender without losing yourself. You're no longer leading with force. You're leading with presence. With compassion. And that's what we call the divine masculine in its awakened form. Yes, even if you still grunt at the gym. You're learning that love doesn't have to rush in like a hurricane to be meaningful. These days, you're lighting candles, not bonfires. You're creating space for emotion to breathe, not explode. You're practicing the sacred art of the slow burn, a kind of love that lingers, that listens, that holds space without suffocating. And guess what? That's not boring. That's evolved. This, Aries, is your emotional graduation. You're no longer mistaking chaos for chemistry. You're learning to recognize what safety feels like, not because someone else gives it to you, but because you finally offer it to yourself. You're not sprinting toward love to escape loneliness. You're walking steadily into it, shoulders back, heart open, mind calm. That's not weakness. That's not passivity. That's power. Real, radical, spiritual power. The kind that can transform not just your relationships, but your entire life. And honestly, I'm proud of you. Let's be honest, Aries. In the past, you've approached love the way most people approach fast food after a juice cleanse, with full throttle hunger and very little chewing. You've devoured attention, affection, and intensity like a double bacon cheeseburger at midnight, greasy, glorious, and gone before you even tasted it. No judgment. We've all been there. But something has shifted in you this season. You're not inhaling anymore. You're savoring. Now you're nibbling on connection like it's a tapas plate, light, intentional, and full of flavor. You're sipping emotional wine instead of chugging from the bottle of "where is this going?" For a fire sign, that's no small feat. Aries energy is hardwired for action. You like speed, certainty, closure. But here you are, practicing the radical art of receiving without overfunctioning. You're not solving it, fixing it, or trying to turn it into a 5-year plan by the second date. You're letting the moment hold you, and that's real growth. And when it comes to defining what this is, whether it's a budding romance, a cosmic friendship, or some weird but wonderful soul contract that defies logic, you're finally letting it be what it is. Your ego may still crave a label like a GPS craving a destination, but your soul? It's taking the scenic route. And let's be real, most of the magic doesn't happen at the destination anyway. It happens on the winding roads, the detours, the pit stops where you learn how to love without needing to possess. This approach, this gentleness, is not a personality change, it's a frequency shift. You're learning to heal through softness. You're not smashing through emotional doors anymore, you're opening them slowly, letting the air circulate, checking the vibe. You're tending to love like a bonsai tree, trimming with care, showing up daily, knowing that the beauty is in the process, not the performance. Tenderness, friendship, the divine masculine, these aren't just themes you're exploring. They're spiritual portals. Walk through them. Trust the quiet. There's a kind of rebirth happening in real time for you. And it's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's not the Aries style burn it all down and start fresh you're used to. No, this is sacred restraint. This is clarity born not of action, but of stillness. You're learning that there's power in the pause. That pacing isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You're not hesitating out of fear. You're moving slowly because you finally understand the value of your energy. And honestly, I'm not just impressed, I am inspired. This is a whole new Aries frequency we're witnessing. One that can still burn bright but knows when to dim the lights for intimacy. One that can still take the lead but knows how to co-create. One that doesn't need to rush, because it finally trusts that what's meant for it won't miss it. So here's to the Aries who no longer devours love out of scarcity, but savors it out of self-worth. You're not just learning how to love others better, you're relearning how to love yourself without conditions, without speed, and without apology. And trust me, that changes everything. Let's talk about butterflies because yes, Aries, you are the butterfly. Now, I know that's not usually your preferred animal symbol. You'd probably rather be a phoenix or a warhorse or, let's be honest, a flamethrower in human form. But here you are, mid-May, awkwardly squirming your way out of a metaphysical chrysalis. And it's beautiful. The truth? You've been cocooning. Spiritually hibernating. Reworking the hard wiring of old patterns, false beliefs, and those survival scripts you memorized in your teenage years that no longer apply to the soul you've become. And now, you're cracking open. Not because life forced you to, but because you chose to evolve. This isn't a breakdown. It's a blueprint revision. This isn't death. It's design. Divine design. Mid-May whispers, you don't need to be who you were to receive what you're becoming. And that's powerful. But here's where most Aries trip up, and believe me, I've worked with plenty over the decades. You want to know how long it'll take. When it'll happen. What it will look like. And the cosmos? It just chuckles softly and responds, let go of the how. Let go of the when. Embrace the what is. You're not being asked to solve your life like a riddle in a locked room escape game. You're being asked to feel your way forward. That's the real assignment in this year of Triumph 2025, not chasing every opportunity like it's a finish line, but receiving what's aligned with you, wisely and warmly. And yes, that's a whole new skill set for Aries energy. You've spent years trying to do more to get more. But what if more joy comes from being more? More present? More real? More open? More soft? Because here's the kicker, softness is your new superpower. You've gone from the Four of Cups, that emotional apathy, the mezone where nothing felt quite right, to the Ten of Cups, the tarot's version of emotional utopia. And no, it's not a Disney fantasy or a spiritual bypass. It's you waking up and realizing, joy isn't something you wait for, it's something you build, moment by moment, choice by choice. So yes, Aries, you're allowed to be this full, this open, this emotionally fluent. And yes, I know somewhere deep in your fire-forged brain, you might still be wondering, but what if I lose it? But darling, the more you fear the joy, the more fragile it becomes. Instead, root into it. Because that's the final step, building with tender hands. You've got roots growing now. Whether it's a new soulmate connection, a blossoming friendship, or simply a deeper, more loving relationship with yourself, don't rush the bloom. There's no need to force the fruit from the vine before it's ripe. This kind of growth, the kind that lasts, it takes patience. And for someone like you who used to sprint through lessons just to say you survived them, this kind of stillness is revolutionary. Aries, you are worthy of a love that lasts. A purpose that breathes. A life that doesn't burn you out but lights you up. So here's your soul's closing note, slow down. Savor this moment. Smile a little more. Trust a little deeper. And let this version of you take up space, not by fighting for it, but by becoming it. If this message resonated, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who's also ready to shed their cocoon, and subscribe to our Soul Circle here on Zodiac Talks Tarot. This is where we decode the cosmic weather, reflect on our human nature, and walk each other home with wisdom, wit, and warmth. Until next time, Aries, take care of your fire. And maybe, just maybe, light a candle instead of a wildfire. You're doing beautifully.